We're hosting a career visioning workshop next week for those entering the program. So we'll tell you all about that, and we'll just give folks maybe one more minute to come online, and we can get started. So I'm joining the meeting from Maine. And Kyle, are you on campus today?
I'm in the country and I'm on campus today. So I'm currently in Waltham, so just outside of Boston.
Amazing. Yeah. And if you all feel comfortable sharing where you're zooming in from, would love to see the representation on the line. Also feel free as we go through the slides to chat in your questions through chat. We will have Q&A towards the end of the session too. So if you want to hold your questions until then and ask and come off mute, you're welcome to do that. Looks like we've got people on the East Coast, West Coast. We've got Philadelphia, Brookline outside of Boston, Atlanta, Seattle, Virginia. Thank you for sharing and welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, all of those lovely things. And good evening, potentially too, folks joining globally. So my name is Janelle Estes. I am the program director for the Human Factors and Information Design program here at Bentley. And I'm also joined by Kyle Mondino. He's our Senior Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions at Bentley. He's also a student in the MS HFID program. So a little bit about me. I am back at Bentley after 20 years in the corporate world. So I spent some time at Forrester Research, Nielsen Norman Group, and most recently was at User Testing, which was and is a tech company in the user and usability testing space. And I've come back to Bentley, and I'm teaching a handful of courses and then also running this program. I also graduated from the program, and I don't want to tell you what year, actually. Well, 2007. So it's almost been 20 years since I've come out of this program here that we're here to talk about today. So we'll spend a little bit of time this morning, or actually this lunch hour, at least on the East Coast, talking and doing a little introductions, which we sort of already did. And then I want to tell you a little bit about our graduate school experience here at Bentley related to the human factors and information design process. And then Kyle's going to speak about the application process and details, and then we will save time at the end for questions. I'm realizing now that my timing is all off on this slide. So replace those 6s with 12s. We just started shifting these sessions from evening to the lunch hour. So that's why it's a little bumpy for me here on the agenda slide. But without further ado, let's kind of get into it. So I know you all are joining from different parts of the country and the world. You might also be in UX related roles, or perhaps in product management roles or innovation roles or software engineering roles, or maybe you're looking to transition from another field like school psychology or education. So if you're also okay or welcome to share your career path or what you're hoping to do as a next step in your career, and why you're interested in learning about the Human Factors and Information Design program. I'm going to share a few kind of examples with you in terms of the outcomes if you were to come to Bentley and go through this program. And I think probably one and maybe two of them will resonate with you. So, feel free also to give me a thumbs up on the various outcomes as I walk through them. If you resonate with them, or if you feel, yes, that speaks to what I'm looking to accomplish in the program. So first one, so imagine you could learn from all different types of experts in their field and seasoned professionals about how to integrate real world experience into the classroom experience and your learning here at Bentley. So this is a screenshot from one of the classes that I teach, qualitative research methods, and we had an industry expert come on and share a bit about what she does in her day-to-day job and how she transitioned into the field of user experience and what her trajectory is moving forward. She also talked about how she used qualitative research methods to really elevate herself in her career and position and become more of a leader at her company. So this is just a screenshot of the presentation, and you can see over on the right-hand side, she asked everyone to type in a word about how they felt after her presentation. So you can see words like energized, inspired, authentic, motivated. So if this experience resonates with you, or if this is something that you're interested in, feel free to give me a thumbs up. Hopefully there's a few folks. Okay, I see at least one. All right, thank you. Yeah, so this seems to be maybe something that could be interesting and something that you can achieve if you join the HFID program at Bentley. So here's another one. Imagine if you could study alongside a diverse cohort of professionals and innovators, all driven by this shared passion of understanding and improving how we interact with the world around us, while connecting with a global alumni network to jumpstart or build your career. So this is a picture of some of our research associates outside of our user experience center, which I'll share a little bit more about later on in the presentation. But if this is something that sounds interesting to you or compelling to you or kind of resonates with a goal that you might have related to your education and learning experience as you explore a graduate degree, feel free to give it a thumbs up. I see one thumbs up so far, and two.
Just want to double check real quick. Is everyone seeing the slides? Because I just had somebody say that they might not be seeing the slides. I just want to make sure there's no issues on our end.
You can see them.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for checking. Okay, here's another one. Imagine if you could partner with organizations like the Massachusetts Trial Court or Ariadne Labs, which is a healthcare innovation organization that is run by the Harvard School of Public Health and Brigham and Women's in Massachusetts. So imagine if you could partner with organizations like this for class projects, and you can use the work that you're doing alongside these partners to build portfolio pieces that you can then integrate into your portfolio and help you, essentially showcase your experience and use that as you elevate your career, look for your next role, or maybe even move to a new role within your current organization. Feel free to give me a thumbs up if that resonates with you. Every semester we have corporate sponsored projects, which are a really great way for our students to get exposure to real world challenges and projects. This semester, I'm actually super excited. We're engaging with the Boston Celtics in my class. So that will be a fun project for our students as well, especially those that might be Boston based or fans of Boston sports or the Celtics. Here's another one. Imagine if you could immerse yourself in one of our labs. So we have 3 labs on campus, and this one is our AI Experiences Lab run by Dr. Rahul Divakar, who is studying the intersection of human interaction and conversational interfaces. So in this picture, he is walking through an experiment where people are learning how to speak a new language by being immersed in an environment where they are actually forced to speak the language that they are trying to learn. And he's studying the efficacy of this and how well it helps people successfully learn new languages. So if this sounds interesting to you, feel free to give me a thumbs up. I'd love to see if this is compelling. Okay, awesome. I see some thumbs up. Great. And then finally, imagine if you could take courses like managing the experience design process or design innovation. These help you build leadership skills, business acumen, which is actually a key differentiator of our program, and this level of design expertise that will actually help you drive more innovation in your organization and ultimately, push you to the next level in your career. Maybe you're looking to lead a team or lead a product or move into more leadership roles. So if this sounds interesting to you, feel free to give me a thumbs up. All right, great. So I think there's interest in many of these cases, and I really just wanted to share and kind of paint the picture for you of the types of opportunities that you have and some of the outcomes that you might achieve if you were to engage with the human factors and information design program here at Bentley. So let's talk about what it actually looks like. Before we jump into that, Kyle, were there any questions that came up? I want to make sure I'm addressing those in real time, and feel free to cut me off if something comes up.
Yeah, no active questions right now. I'll let you know for sure.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's talk about the grad school experience and the HFID program at Bentley. So I like to break the program down into three components. There's our curriculum, right, which is really the classes and coursework that you take. There is real world application, which means taking what you're learning and applying it to real world challenges and situations. And then the third component is really around career and networking. Most students who engage with the HFID program are looking to either shift to the UX or experience design fields. Maybe they're looking to enhance their learning or knowledge. Maybe they're looking to enhance or grow in their career in terms of leadership or management. Usually everyone enters the program with a learning objective, but also a career objective. And so we're very well aware of that and make sure that that is something that is fully integrated into the program that we deliver. So I'm going to walk through each of these pillars and I'll talk about the various components of each. So the curriculum itself. So this, I like to kind of pull through some of the key differentiators, because if you are interested in this field, you might actually be looking at more than just the Bentley program. And I encourage you actually to do that. The difference with Bentley's program compared to some of the other programs out there is that Bentley's program is heavily focused on human factors, meaning you will get a deep understanding of how the mind works, how we make decisions, how we interact with the world around us. It is deep into the literature and the science behind, how do we store a memory? How do we recall information? And how do these human factors influence how people experience the world around us? So you won't just learn about what makes a good design or what makes a bad design or how to really understand what the needs are of your audience or population. You deeply understand the why behind it. I can't tell you how many times that skill set and knowledge has come to be very valuable to me in my career, even daily. So if I decide to create a survey a certain way, or if I decide to design my slides in a certain way, I'm doing it because I believe it's a good design, but I'm also doing it because I understand how people consume information, how they make decisions, and it helps me create, easier to understand, easier to consume content and information, for example. You will be able to use those same skill sets and that same knowledge in your work, regardless of your industry and role, and you will learn all of that through this program. The other key differentiator of our curriculum is that it is business focused. Our MS HFID program sits within the Graduate School of Business. Most other competitive programs sit within engineering schools or sit within arts and sciences schools. And so the benefit is, in addition to the 8 human factors classes that you will take as part of this program, you also are required to take 2 business classes in the Graduate School of Business. So these are classes such as negotiation, leading change and innovation, managing with data analytics. Really, you get to choose depending on what your career path and goals are, but that is a big part of achieving your graduate degree. And we also integrate these business concepts into our human factors classes. So what is the value of good design? Why is it important to make sure that we're building products that meet our customers' needs? What is the ROI or business impact of making those types of decisions? Those are all things that we focus on in our curriculum and classwork. So this is the curriculum itself. I know there's a lot of words on this slide, and I was just telling you about how I designed my slides to be really easy to consume. So I want to just call out a few things. One is that there are 3 required courses, and you can take up to 4. So you take your foundations in human factors, which is where you learn the deep cognitive science and understanding of, again, how the mind works, how we process information. You also take a more practical class in terms of, applying in practice. So managing the experience design process or UX leadership and management. And the class you take really does depend on where you are in your career. And we have career advisors and academic advisors that can help you choose between these two. You can also take both. And then finally, a third required class is testing and assessment programs. So this is where you learn to get feedback on and test the designs and products that you're building. So this is a key component of being a good practitioner or leader in this field. You can see there's a variety of electives you can choose from. You choose 5 of them from this list. So it varies from design ethics, right, which is actually a really fascinating topic where we talk about this concept of just because we can build it doesn't mean we should build it. So things are really interesting conversations that we dive into in that class. There are other examples of electives such as prototyping, right? So how do you prototype or build an MVP of something? There are other classes that go deep into particular research methodologies like ethnography. So, depending on your career goals, your interests, your path, you would choose a set of 5 electives here. And again, we have coaches, and you can meet with me, you can meet with other faculty members, you can meet with academic advising to make sure you choose the path that's right for you. And then, as I mentioned, there's 2 non-human factors electives in our graduate school of business. So that's the curriculum: 10 classes, 3 required, 5 elective human factors, and then 2 non-human factors electives. In terms of corporate sponsored projects, so these are projects that are included in coursework. So many of our courses include corporate sponsors. So as I mentioned, the Commonwealth of Mass court system, the Massachusetts trial courts, was one of our corporate sponsors in the fall, along with Ariadne Labs and Ikigai, which is a AI-focused startup based actually in Cambridge. And the idea here is that while you learn in your course, so in the class that I had these sponsors in, it was qualitative research methods. As you learned the foundations of doing qualitative research, you also engaged with a real world client to apply what you were learning to a problem. And this kicks off right at the start of the semester. You work in a small group or team, and then you present your work at the end of the semester. And these are pieces that you can add to your portfolio and things that you can speak to as you're interviewing or talking about, your skill set and your knowledge. It also is a great way to build your network. So, you will interface with people at these organizations and build more professional connections, which will serve you well, as you work through your career and, through your professional journey. In terms of the curriculum and learning itself, there are flexible options. So we have full-time options, so you can come in and join full-time, or you can do part-time. Most of our classes are delivered in the evening hours, East Coast time, so between 5 and 10 p.m. And they're designed that way so people who are working full-time can still come and learn in the program. You can come to campus in Waltham. We also have a satellite San Francisco classroom, which we're actually opening up this spring. And so you can join in person, or you can join online, or you can do a combination of all of those things. So for example, I have some students who live in New York and primarily join through Zoom, but then come to campus a couple of times a semester when work brings them there, or when they're traveling in that area and visiting family, for example. So it's highly flexible, again, built for working professionals and really just for the age that we all live in, where we're able to access information in our education in different ways. Most of our classes are 14-week classes. We have a fall semester and a spring semester. We also have intensives in the summer and in the winter, or more like executive format options, where the instruction runs for 5 days, 9 to 5, versus the 14 weekly meetings, which tend to be about 2.5 hours once a week over the course of 14 weeks. Okay. And then in terms of your classmates when you're in the classes and for the curriculum, so we have about 135 students in the program. About 60 of them are full-time students, and then the other, over half of them are part-time. We have, about half of our cohort that joins primarily online, and then a mix that do online and in person, and then, a smaller cohort of students that come primarily in person. And, we have students who are located all across the United States. A bigger chunk in California, but we are kind of dispersed across the United States, and different smaller cohorts emerge as well. So for example, there's a cohort in Denver, Colorado that gets together regularly for coffee, and they join class remotely, but they have more of a community locally. In terms of who you would be taking classes with, we really look for students who have strong academic performance in related or tangential areas. So degrees in psychology, cognitive psychology, neuroscience, economics, software engineering, computer science. There are a lot of degrees that translate really nicely to this area of work. So that is certainly one thing that we look for. And if you have a question about whether or not your undergraduate degree is a good fit for a transition to this master's program, certainly happy to chat with you offline and set up some time to discuss. We also have students who join our program who have at least 3 years of professional working experience, and on average somewhere between 6 and 7 years of work experience. And the reason we do that is because we really do look for people who have lived experiences that they can speak to, that will provide meaning and value in the classroom to your classmates. So you will certainly learn from your professors and your lecturers, but you will learn just as much from the students that you are surrounded by, whether it's in class discussion, class debate, small group projects. This is a network that you will create and bring with you through your career. There are still people that I speak with regularly that I went through the program with, that we have been connected, for over 20 years now, and following each other's careers and being part of each other's careers. And so that's really the experience that we're trying to create in the classroom. I'd also mention that we're looking for people with unique perspectives. The last thing that we want to do is fill a classroom with a profile of a student who is the same. And so we aren't just looking for a particular profile, right? We're looking for mixed experiences, mixed educational backgrounds, lived experiences, working experiences, and so I just want to summarize a little bit around what we're looking for in an ideal candidate. These aren't necessarily hard and fast requirements, though. So if you're listening to me and you're thinking, oh gosh, I had a 3.9 in neuroscience, but I've only had an internship, so I haven't had 3 years of experience, talk to me. If you're listening to me and you're seeing, oh, geez, I had like a 3.0 GPA in computer science, but I have 10 years in industry as a programmer, talk to me. Like, we are looking for lots of different, we're not looking for a specific cookie cutter type of person. These are just guidelines. And again, we're looking at the entire candidate, and I see Kyle has his hand up.
Yeah, just to add to it, from an admissions standpoint, as Janelle's saying, there's a range we're looking for, but there's always different paths to get you to where you want to be. And so, if someone didn't perform as well as academically as they would have liked, there are different recommendations we can make about how you can strengthen your profile there for the admissions committee. There's different types of relevant work experience. And so while many people who pursue our program do have a lot of professional work experience, the ultimate goal is to demonstrate that you can complete the program successfully. So, you may have undergraduate experience by participating in a program that had a lot of project experience, or maybe you did a UX boot camp, or maybe there are other things in your profile that you might not be aware of that still shows that you can do the program successfully. And that's really what we're looking for.
Thank you, Kyle. said it much more eloquently than I could.
I'm on the admission side.
All right, awesome. Okay, so let's move, I think, yeah, into the next portion of this. So real world application. So you will get real world application opportunities in your coursework. Remember, we talked about the corporate sponsored project, so that is a given. If you wanted to add to that, if there are other ways that you wanted to engage with opportunities here at Bentley while you're in the program, these are the three that I like to speak to. So we have our research labs, which are run by our research faculty. We have our UX Center, which is a consultancy that is on campus that takes on real client work and hires a set of research assistants each semester. And then we also have internships, which you can get credit for through the program. So let's talk about each of these. So research labs, let me walk you through the three research faculty that we have. So Dr. Munya Ziat, she is quite frankly one of the top haptic researchers in the world. Just published a book, I believe in 2023. Haptics for Human Computer Interaction from Skin to the Brain. She has done amazing work funded by the NSF, funded by the Air Force, funded by Google. She's created devices that communicate and interact with humans through touch and vibration. This is a totally interesting and kind of untapped area when it comes to overall experience. I think there are lots of different applications for this work, and it is such a focused and niche part of experience, but so complex and so fascinating. So she's done a ton of work. She has a research lab on campus, and she works and recruits and brings on students to work with her on research projects. You can see she's mentored over 55 students, including undergraduate and graduate students. Again, focus on haptic equipment and this idea of tactile interfaces. Our other second lab on campus is run by Dr. John Erickson. So he focuses on virtual reality, augmented reality, and immersive design. So he has a couple different focuses. I'll share maybe one of his projects where he was looking at the communication practices of a provider providing a diagnosis to a patient, and that provider doing and using different nonverbal communication strategies and verbal communication strategies to deliver the diagnosis. And they were looking at the efficacy and the emotional response that patients had as they looked at the different ways that this news was delivered to the patient. So really interesting work, and the way this work was done was through virtual reality. So through, putting on a headset and immersing yourself in the experience itself. John's also been doing a lot of interesting work around people's and the public's perception around renewable energy, and in particular windmills. Having people experience what it's like to be near a windmill and report on, what might be challenging, what isn't so bad after all, those types of pieces of feedback. So a lot of interesting work that John is focused on, and primarily again in the virtual reality and augmented reality spaces. And then this is Dr. Rahul Divakar's lab. He runs our AI experiences lab, which we talked a little bit about at the start of the hour. So this is where we are looking at different ways for example, people to learn a foreign language. So instead of using something like Duolingo or flashcards, if you're, from back in the day, this is really about immersing yourself in a situation where you're actually forced to speak the language that you are learning, and to navigate a city, a square, and you're given different activities to do. So it's fascinating to kind of look at how the brain processes and learns a new language in this format versus maybe some of the other more traditional ways. So these are, different areas of research that, again, our research faculty are focused on and often engage with our graduate students in those projects. We also have our user experience center. So as I mentioned, this is connected to our core classroom on campus. It is a place where students can apply to be a research assistant. And this is open to students who are attending full-time and in person. And what you can do is commit to about 20 hours a week to work in the lab alongside one of our 4 research and design experts and essentially learn on the job. So learn alongside these experts and be mentored and trained to do real world client work. These are some of the logos and companies that we engage with at the center, and it's a wonderful, wonderful learning experience. So that's another opportunity. And then finally, there are internships that you can engage with in the fall, the spring, the summer. We have different credit options for them. We place students across the US, so not just in the Boston area, and another opportunity to, create portfolio pieces and build your brand and network. So those are kind of real world application opportunities that sit outside of the classroom experience. Here's one of our students. She's actually, I think, graduating at the end of this semester. So this is Mariana. She actually did a summer internship at Fidelity Investments. So you can see a little bit about the types of things that she did. She actually worked as a product design strategist within Fidelity. So she was able to, take her first business trip to Chicago. She was doing interviews with customers on sensitive topics. She created really interesting and compelling videos of those interviews and learned on the job that it's really important to have video storytelling skills to be successful. She learned about and had to use different technologies, and then also really felt rewarded by the experience. You can see her here. She was telling me she did some glass blowing team building exercise while she was there as an intern. So these are all opportunities that are available to you as a HFID student. And then finally, I want to wrap on career and networking before we hand it over to Kyle and then open up for more discussion and questions. So these are 3 areas that I would like us to focus on. The first being our career visioning workshop. So I don't have a slide for this per se, but at the start of each semester, we welcome incoming students to engage with us on a 3-hour career visioning workshop where you're required to do a little bit of pre-work about your journey to date, both academically and maybe professionally. And then also your values. So what's important to you as a person as you think about, entering into or accelerating your career in this field. And then together, after you do that pre-work, we get together and we talk about what are the paths within experience design? What are the considerations you need to think about when you're looking at getting hired? What's it like to work for a company that's 2 years old versus one that's maybe 50 years old? What's it like to work for a company that has their UX team living in product versus their UX team living in marketing? These are all things that we want to consider and be aware of as we craft what we call the career vision statement, which is ultimately what you leave that workshop with. And it serves as sort of a signpost for you to look at your experience as you go through the program and make sure that the classes that you're taking and the internships that you're engaging with and the group projects that you're working on are all helping you move towards that broader career vision statement, which will likely change and you will iterate on as you go through the program, but it's a really great way to kick things off. We also have, lots of different opportunities to think about in terms of what do you do with a degree like human factors and information design. The good news is that there's literally room for it everywhere. You see every industry represented here, from your usual suspects of, Apple and Tesla to maybe some that you might not expect to see here, like the White House or the Department of Defense. And then, there are other areas like healthcare or financial services, big tech, retail, even gaming. We have some graduates that work within the gaming industry. So there's so many areas where this skill set is applicable, and it's really up to you to decide what's your goal, what's your path, and we will kind of coach you and help you get to that ideal vision and then, help you make your way there. We also have an alum network of over 800 graduates who have gone through the program. We have a private LinkedIn group that you are added to once you become a student. And we have, mentorship programs, coaching support through this group of alumni. And the program's been around for over 25 years now. So we've got 25 years of graduates who I would say 80% of them are engaged in some meaningful way with our current students. Kyle, was there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, there was a question that was asked earlier, but I was going to save it to the end. But the conversation about HFID placements and trajectories I thought was appropriate time. So the question was around the hiring situation for, human-centered interaction, UX in the U.S. What kind of the themes that we're seeing in industry, and how can students best prepare to position themselves and
Mhm.
considering a graduate program. And then there was another question that was tied to that regarding what that looks like for international students, which I might be a little more be able to address a little more effectively. But what does that market look like for in general for the U.S., but also for international students?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can speak to that. So, if I actually look at this, the logo slide might actually be a good one. So, I will share with you when I graduated from the program, that was 20 years ago. There were no roles that were called UX. My first role out of this graduate program was a human factors engineer. And there were a lot of students that I graduated with, or classmates that I graduated with, that got roles with similar titles. I will say in the last 20 years, and if you look at the data, which I don't have in this presentation, but the growth of this practice, and in particular, titles that have the word UX or user experience in them, has grown tremendously, and the trajectory is for that to continue to grow. Now, my personal belief on this is that while we have seen a market that, particularly in tech, but actually across the board, has seen a fair amount of layoffs, of which UX has been impacted. Note that it's not just UX, though, it's a lot of roles in tech. I believe that the skill set that you build as you go through this program and operate in a UX related role, or, a role with a UX title, those skill sets are evergreen. And while they are evergreen, you also need to continually evolve them. So when I graduated, for example, I had to learn how to do research all on my own. It took a long time, right? It was a 6 to 8 week project of developing a script, recruiting people, conducting the research in real time, doing the analysis on my own, and writing a report and delivering it to a client or delivering it to my team. There are now technologies in place that help make that process a lot more efficient. But what hasn't been replaced is the skill set of what makes a good research project. How do you know what to invest in terms of conducting research? How do you make sense of all the information and data that you're collecting? What do you deliver in terms of recommendations to the business once you've done the work? So, I think there sometimes can be this feeling of, oh, tech is replacing our jobs, or AI is replacing our jobs. That's not the case for user experience. AI is going to help us be better and more efficient, but it's not necessarily going to replace us, at least today. If I think about the future of our profession, again, I believe the skill set and the knowledge that you have, that you build when you go through a program like this, or you develop this in industry or on the job, those will always be valuable, always be important, but it might not always be called UX. Just like how we didn't start out as UX, we need to leave room for ourselves to evolve and actually think about, how do we have more impact within our companies, within our businesses? For so long, UX has been kind of pushed down in an organization, and not a ton of there's not a seat at the table per se. And so this opportunity that we're in right now speaks to, what does the future look like? What does it look like in 5 to 10 years? What does it look like when we're not called UX anymore and maybe we're called something else? What is it, how do we actually harness this as an opportunity? So just starting or going back to where I left off, as I mentioned, coming out of grad school, no UX titles. Looking back over the last 20 years, crazy growth in UX. Looking forward, I think we're just in early days. I think we're just in early days of UX and what the opportunity is, and that this will only grow. And so I am super hopeful and optimistic about what that looks like, even considering the current, job market and, situation within the tech space in particular. So Kyle, I don't know if that
Yeah.
helped answer the question. If there's
Well,
anything else you would add.
to add to it, we had previously presented, I think back in August when we started off our presentation series about the market. And, you can look at this, I'm sure you can find a ton of research online, but the market is cyclical. Time and time and time again, there's always a high and there's always a low. And even if we are in a bit of a low right now, what I always try to convey to students is, do you want to be prepared for when there's the high? Do you want to have the skill set already developed so that when your dream job does come along, you qualify for it and you apply for it? And so there's a lot of different philosophies about whether you should apply in a high market for a grad program or a low. My personal philosophy is apply when it's low. That way you're ready for when it's on the rise. And so that's kind of the advice that I provide to candidates, is that even if the job market's looking a little low right now, you want to be ready for when it starts to boom again. And then in terms of international considerations, you got to keep your aperture open about the types of companies you want to work at. Not every company in the U.S. is willing to hire or can hire an international candidate. And so making sure you're not being too narrowly focused on companies and focus more on the types of roles you're looking to pursue will give you the best advantage. Additionally, in the U.S., we have a lottery system for H-1B work visas, and they reserve a set amount of those visas each year for graduates from a master's program. So, there's no guarantees. I don't think any country guarantees or any company guarantees, the ability to secure one of those visas because of the lottery system in the U.S. But having a graduate degree puts you in a better spot than undergrad because they reserve a specific amount of those for graduate students. So I hope that answered your question, but if you have any other questions, be sure to either raise your hand or type them in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. And thanks for the questions. Okay, last couple slides and then I'll hand it over to Kyle and then we can open up for Q&A. So career support, we do have a dedicated team in graduate career development that hosts various events throughout the year. This is on the right-hand side, a portfolio power-up session that we had with hiring managers and people who have been in industry for some time to talk about what makes a good portfolio, how do you build one, what's the story you want to tell, and what do hiring managers look for in a portfolio. We also offer various career fairs and networking events. This event on the far right was an opportunity to meet in virtual booths with various people in industry, again, who have years of experience and or are hiring managers. We do have other events that are supported by our student-led group called UXGA. There's a weekly newsletter that goes out with various job opportunities and upcoming events that might be interesting to students. And then we also are developing employer relations for companies that come in and recruit and look for talent from our graduate program. I'll also mention that we do have a series of certificate classes that are available for those who are in our graduate program as well. So these come at a discount. They're 2-day classes that if you wanted to brush up on a particular topic, you could sign up for this as well. And this is the kind of process of networking and upskilling and ongoing career development. So even if you graduate 5 years later, you come back and you say, oh, you know what, I really want to better understand how to build more inclusive experiences. You can come take a 2-day course at a discount as well. So a call to action here. If you want to keep up with all things HFID, if maybe you're interested in the program, but maybe it's not right for you right this second, or you're interested in just kind of seeing what we're up to, we post regular updates on our Experience Design Hub on LinkedIn. So here's a feature about one of our internship opportunities on the right. And then we had a 25th anniversary party earlier in 2023 or 2024. So that was a call out here. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kyle.
Thank you, Janelle. All right, so I'm going to go over some of the information about how to apply, processes, requirements, just to kind of prime you if you're interested in applying for the program. So application requirements. We've really tried to streamline our application to make it easier to kind of get considered for this. We require a resume. We do prefer to see your LinkedIn profile. Just gives us a lot of information, especially how you represent yourself in the marketplace. We require one letter of recommendation. It could be professional or academic in nature. We just ask no friends or family. Whoever you feel can speak most appropriately about your ability to be successful in an academic program would be most aligned with who you should be looking at. You do also have the option to submit a second letter of recommendation, but only one is required. We require one written essay, typically about 300 to 500 words. You will have a couple of different prompts to pick from. These prompts may change from time to time, so the best way to locate what that prompt is within the Business Cast application. And then there is an optional statement of personal statement that you can include with that as well. Not a requirement, but some people really like to explain their background or provide additional details, and this is your opportunity to do that. The GMAT or GRE has now shifted to being optional as well. It is a tool that many universities use to kind of gauge academic capability. Given that a lot of our program within the HFID program is experiential, there's a few other areas we look at. What I typically will recommend for candidates considering the GMAT or GRE is that if you have a weaker academic performance, the GMAT or GRE is generally recommended to kind of just demonstrate that there's not a lot of concern for your academic capability. Or if you're looking to just make your application more competitive, we do have a competitive-based scholarship, and so there are times where candidates may submit a strong GMAT or strong GRE score to help boost those considerations. But again, not required to be admitted to the program. For those of you who may have studied or be from another country where English is not the primary or native language, we do have an English language test requirement. We pretty much accept all major tests. There's also waiver eligibility as well for candidates who may qualify for those waivers. We do require a copy of your transcript for the admissions process. Again, if you've completed any academic credentials outside of the United States, we do request a NACES member course-by-course transcript evaluation. And this is to accommodate for the variances that occur on the global scale in education to ensure that we're considering all of our candidates as fairly and equitably as possible. And then for the HFID program, we also have a program director interview. So candidates will be invited to have conversations directly with Janelle. Again, to better understand your experience for the program, ensure that it's going to be a good program fit. So financing your education. I'm happy to share that about 85% of our applicants are eligible for Merit Aid. Merit Aid is our scholarship. It is based on your competitive profile. And the other thing that's great about Bentley's program is it is a highly specialized master's program, meaning there's no fluff courses. It's a 10-course program, which in the United States is typically the minimum number of courses you have to complete for a graduate program, 30 credits. At the current academic tuition rate, $58,650, not including any scholarship. And then scholarship can range generally between 0% for candidates who don't qualify to a maximum of around 40%, again, depending on what your profile looks like. So for deadlines, our spring intake is pretty much completed. So right now, our fall 2025 intake is open. We are going to be finalizing our round 3 deadline on February 1st. With that said, The intake cycle for fall is quite long. So for our international applicants, the real final deadline is June 1st, and the final deadline for domestic candidates or F1 visa holders who are just looking to complete a transfer is August 1st. So you still have plenty of time to get your application in. I generally don't recommend waiting till the last moment for a few different reasons. Our classes can fill up. We definitely can reach capacity, especially within the HFID program. And then scholarship considerations. We do have a finite budget for awarding scholarships, so the earlier you apply, the more funds we typically have available. I typically would say try to get your application in by April at the latest. Again, there's flexibility to get candidates in earlier, but if you get your application in by April, end of April at the latest, that really will give you the best opportunities for both admissions, course registration, and scholarship. So we want to open this up to Q&A. I know that we got a question submitted that I'll ask live. Also, if you have your phone available to you, this is QR codes that should bring you to some quick links. That way you don't have to, explore our website too in depth to find where you want to be. We do have a group of students called Graduate Ambassadors. That are current students you can connect with. You can set up direct consultations online. If you are looking to connect with me specifically, though, I recommend that you just email applygrad@bentley.edu, and I can arrange phone or Zoom consultations directly with you for a time that works. And then we do have social media presence as well. The question that I got in the chat, though, says, let's see, I have 10 years of experience in visual communication, CGI, user experience, and XR. I have a master's with 9.01 GPA, but most with bachelor's. Jerry scores. So this is, I'll answer this. This is probably, I'll answer this because this is more focused about an individual candidate. So I'll answer this in the chat, but feel free to unmute yourself, type any questions you have in the chat. Yeah, really good question. So if we choose to take classes online, but you're in the Bentley area, can you still come to campus for extracurriculars and partake in on-campus events, career network, all that stuff? Yes, absolutely. So we have flat rate tuition costs, and those tuition costs do not impact your ability to attend online, come to campus in person. So anytime you want to come to campus to engage with events, participate in classes, you are not restricted if you start your program online. You're perfectly welcome to engage in that anytime you can and or want to. It is encouraged. We have a really lively HFID community that loves to network and get together, both on and off campus. So we have a question around the UXC. Could an online student participate in UXC activities?
Unfortunately, these are primarily available to those who are on campus and also full-time. That being said, we are exploring different ways to more programmatically provide access to the User Experience Center for all students and not just those that are on campus. So I say that now, but the answer could very likely change in the next semester or even year. So I certainly would caveat that by saying that's how things work today. But as we grow and evolve, we're looking for ways to integrate the User Experience Center into the broader learning experience. So great question.
Yeah, and I would also like to add that the types of work that you would conduct in the User Experience Center can also be accessed through other virtual means. So for instance, I think it was 2 semesters ago now, Janelle, we started utilizing user testing, which allows you to conduct a virtual usability test, much like you would in the User Experience Center. And so there are digital and virtual resources that are available to you, even if you're remote. So don't feel like your experience is less than just because you're attending virtually. We try to ensure that you're getting the same level of experience that that you would be if you were able to do it in person.
Great point. There's a question in here, Kyle, about switching from full-time and part-time and then online or in person. Like, is there flexibility to kind of shift throughout the program?
Yeah, actually, one of the great things about our graduate program is the flexibility. So when you're applying and you apply as like full-time versus part-time, really that's just for us to help us navigate like resource planning. In terms of how it's played out in practice, it doesn't really have an impact on anything, whether you're full-time or part-time, other than specialized roles that require full-time enrollment, like Janelle mentioned with the UXC. So part-time versus full-time enrollment doesn't affect your scholarship. It doesn't affect whether you're admitted to the program or not. If you start full-time and need to switch to part-time or vice versa, there's nothing special you really need to do. If you enroll in 1 or 2 classes, you're considered part-time. If you enroll in 3 or 4 classes, you're considered full-time. If you need to take a leave of absence, you just complete a leave of absence form and you can take a break as needed. There is a caveat though, the program has to be completed in 5 years, which is very doable with the HFID program because even if you're taking the bare minimum 1 course per semester, not including summer or intensive courses, you would still meet the threshold of completing the program within 5 years. So it's really designed for working professionals to accommodate your work-life balance. I work full-time. I do the program. I bounce between 1 or 2 courses per semester. I've taken some summer courses to catch up. There are times I've taken courses from India. I'm going to be in China during this next semester. So again, a lot of flexibility here. Oh, the other caveat is if you're an international student on an F1 visa, the immigration requirement is you have to be full-time, which is a minimum of 3 courses. Oh, I think you're on mute, Janelle.
Yeah, thank you. I want to be conscious of everyone's time. We're right at the top of the hour. So thank you so much for joining, for your great questions. If you have more questions or want to have a conversation, feel free to reach out to me or Kyle. As Kyle mentioned, the best way to reach out to him is through gradadmissions at bentley.com, bentley.edu. And my email is my first initial last name, so jestes@bentley.edu. If you want to set up another conversation or have more questions about the program. And with that, have a wonderful rest of your Monday. Have a great week, and thank you for joining.
And Abhimanyu, if you want to just hang out for a second, I can answer your question live if you'd like, if you have the time.
Thank you both.
Very well.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Garrett.